So now that you've watched the video, you have seen that there are lots of different styles of editorial. So it's basically going to be a fantasy. You're looking at images that are stories, whether or not it's a literal, almost like a fairy tale feel, to something a little more modern. You're going to see women with that typical model body style. So it's going to be more of like narrow hips, narrow shoulders, narrow waist, smaller chest. Those are typical of editorial fashion models simply because they're known to be more of a hanger. So when a designer is looking for a model to showcase their clothing, they're looking for body styles that are going to make their clothes look the best that they can without distraction. So typically if a woman has a little more curvage to their bodies, it can be a bit of a distraction from showing the clothing, which is why when you see these editorial fashion models, they're typically thinner, their chests are a little smaller, they have a different type of body style. Now that can also be considered an aspirational body style, but you want to make sure that you are always going to be the best version of yourself and not to get too carried away with comparing yourself to other models, and we're going to get into that a little bit later as well. But for the fashion editorial, it's all about selling an image. It's about selling a lifestyle. It's about selling that aspiration. I want to look like that. I want to feel like that. I want those clothes because I want to have that feeling from this fashion spread that we are seeing. It's all just about a fantasy and entertainment, essentially, when you're looking through the magazines. That's what editorials are. They're not advertisements necessarily, but they are selling a feeling, and that is where the editorial models come in. The poses are going to be a little more exaggerated. You're going to have a little more, it's not going to look as natural. It's going to look a little out there, a little crazy, and that is more designed to showcase the clothes, to showcase that feeling than anything else. So when I talk about a model being a hanger, it's essentially what you would think of a hanger in your closet. So the model is there just to showcase the clothing, again, not to show herself. You have to remember that at the end of the day, again, you are not hired to sell you. You're hired to sell the product, whether that would be clothes or any other product. So when you're a model, they want to see how the clothes are going to look their best, not necessarily on you, but on anyone. And they don't want any distractions as far as curves, as far as any certain looks that might be specific to you, essentially. So you're going to be more in the background. The clothes are what are supposed to shine, really. And that's something else that you need to remember moving forward if you want to be in this business, that it's not about you at the end of the day. It is about the products that you are selling. So again, these editorial models, these beautiful women in these magazines, yes, they look stunning and they have hair and makeup and they have the fantasy and they have great lighting and they have these amazing photographers, but they are there to showcase the clothes and to give you a feeling, not necessarily to look at them and be like, oh, so-and-so, the model. It's about the entirety of the editorial. So a typical editorial model will be on the taller side. We're looking at maybe 5'10" to 5'11", and definitely a slimmer build. So you want to think narrow bust, narrow hips, narrow waist, tall, lean, lanky. There are some exceptions, I want to say, like Lara Stone, like Gigi Hadid, who's a little bit more athletic, but the typical is more like a Coco Roca, more, I almost want to say boyish in build. That's a lot of what they're looking for, especially considering the whole hanger aspect of modeling for these editorials and also for runway, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So it's going to be more of those tall, lean, slender looking ladies that are going to be more of your editorial fashion style as far as body type and model type. Also, they're always looking for something a little bit different, not necessarily your girl next door. So if you have a little bit of that quirk to you, then that's definitely going to work in your favor because they want beauty, but they don't want typical beauty. So don't think when you're looking in the mirror sometimes like, oh, I'm not the typical girl next door, or I'm not this, I'm not that. What is special about you could be exactly what they're looking for. So you always want to keep that in mind. And that's also a great self-confidence builder, and that's something else that you always want to keep in mind is just being the best version of you is really all you have to do. So going forward, when you're looking at these magazines and you're thinking, God, I want to be high fashion, I want to be editorial, but I have this or I have that, don't think negatively about yourself. There's always going to be something that you're not going to be completely happy with about you, but that could be something that the agents or that the clients will absolutely love. And they'll be like, that is exactly what we're looking for. So I just want you to keep that in mind as we're moving forward as well. So the next type of modeling I want to talk to is advertisement and commercial. Now, these are going to be the ads that you see in your magazines. These are going to be the commercials that you see on television. These are going to be those billboards that you see when you're driving down the highway. This is a completely different type of modeling from your editorial. This is going to be a lot less of that high fashion, lean build, quirky look kind of thing. Necessarily, it's going to be more of that girl next door. It's going to be a little more of that, I can relate to this person. I can relate to this scenario. It's a lot more relatable. It's more of that, I see this person on the street. I can totally see this happening at the mall, whatever. That is a completely different feel. And I don't want you to think that that's anything less than, say, the high fashion, because I know that high fashion editorial print is probably the creme de la creme in most people's minds as far as modeling goes. But I just want you to know also that at the end of the day, it pays less. So you want to keep in mind that commercial and advertising modeling is big business, and it's great to get yourself out there. And absolutely, it's something that you want to aspire to. So I want you to watch this quick YouTube video. It's going to explain to you sort of the difference between commercial and high fashion modeling, but also it's going to show you that people that do high fashion can also do commercial and vice versa. So take a quick look.